in the scorching heart of the great garrison of Ashmar, where warriors train beneath the merciless sun and legends are forged in blood and sand, there stood a man whom no enemy had ever seen kneel. General Razhan, the Lionblood, bearer of the Solar Lion's mark, conqueror of the Shadow Wastes, defender of 3 kingdoms. They said he was born standing, that he emerged from his mother's womb with a sword in hand and fire in his eyes. They said he had never bowed to any king, any god, any force in this world or beyond, but they were wrong. He knelt once, and it changed everything. The sun rises over Ashmar like a hammer striking an anvil, relentless and unforgiving. The garrison sprawls across the desert like a city unto itself, walls of red sandstone 30 feet high, watchtowers that pierce the sky, training yards where thousands of soldiers drill in perfect synchronization. This is the beating heart of the Southern Territory's military might, the place where boys become warriors and warriors become legends. And at the center of it all, in the largest command pavilion, adorned with crimson banners bearing the Solar Lion emblem, sits General Razhan. He is 42 years old, though he looks ageless, as if time itself hesitates to leave its mark on him. His skin is bronze from decades under the desert sun, his hair black with streaks of silver at the temples, kept short and practical. His eyes are the color of molten gold, a sign of his deep connection to the Solar Lion totem. His body is a map of scars, each one a story of survival, of victory, of lessons learned in the crucible of battle. He wears simple clothing now, linen pants, and a sleeveless tunic that reveals the mark on his chest, the golden lion that seems to pulse with its own heartbeat, its mane flowing across his left shoulder and down his arm in intricate, living lines. Razhan studies maps spread across a heavy wooden table, his expression focused and intense. Reports from scouts indicate unusual activity in the northern reaches, near the Crimson Peaks, where shadow creatures have been sighted with increasing frequency. He traces possible routes with his finger, calculating logistics, troop movements, supply lines. War is mathematics and instinct combined, and he has mastered both. A knock sounds at the entrance to his pavilion. Enter, he commands, his voice deep and carrying the weight of absolute authority. A young officer steps inside, saluting sharply. "General, there is someone here to see you." She claims it is urgent. Razhan does not look up from his maps. If it is another merchant wanting a military escort for their caravan, the answer is no. "We are not a private security force." The officer shifts uncomfortably. "She is not a merchant, sir. She says her name is Lyra, and she has come from the temple of the Stellar Leopard. She bears a message from the High Mystic." Now Razhan looks up, his golden eyes sharp. The temple of the Stellar Leopard is one of the most sacred sites in all the territories, a place where those connected to the cosmic totem study the stars and interpret the patterns of fate. If they have sent a messenger, it is not for trivial reasons. Send her in. The officer bows and retreats. A moment later, a woman enters the pavilion, and Razhan finds himself momentarily caught off guard, though he shows no outward sign. She is unlike anyone he has ever seen. She moves with a grace that seems otherworldly, as if she walks through water rather than air. Her skin is pale, unusual in these sun-drenched lands, suggesting she spends most of her time indoors, in temples and libraries. Her hair is long and silver, not the silver of age, but the silver of starlight, flowing down her back like liquid moonlight. Her eyes are violet, deep and endless, holding galaxies within their depths. She wears robes of deep blue embroidered with silver constellations, and on her collarbone, just visible above the neckline, is a mark that glows faintly, a leopard made of stars, its spots twinkling like distant suns. She is marked by the stellar leopard, a bearer of cosmic sight, a reader of destinies. Razhan has met only 2 others with such a mark in his entire life, and both inspired a mixture of respect and unease. These individuals see too much, know too much, perceive patterns that ordinary minds cannot grasp. "General Razhan," the woman says, her voice soft but clear, each word precisely articulated. "I am Lyra, acolyte of the Stellar Temple. I bring grave news and a warning that concerns you directly." Razhan gestures to a chair across from his table. "Speak plainly. I have little patience for riddles or prophecy." Lyra sits with perfect posture, her violet eyes never leaving his face. "Very well. The stars have shown us a convergence, a point where multiple timelines collapse into a single moment of critical importance. At the center of this convergence is you, General. Your choices in the coming days will determine not just your own fate, but the fate of thousands. Razhan leans back, crossing his arms. The stars always show convergences. That is the nature of time and choice. Why should this one concern me more than any other battle I have fought? Because Lyra says quietly, in every timeline we have observed except one, you die within the next 3 weeks. And in that single timeline where you survive, you do something you have never done before. Something that goes against every principle you have built your life upon. The words hang in the air like smoke. Razhan feels a cold touch at the base of his spine, the first whisper of genuine fear he has experienced in years. But his face remains impassive, his voice steady. "And what is this unprecedented thing I must do?" Lyra's expression is unreadable. "You must trust. Not in your own strength, not in your strategic mind, not in the power of the solar lion. You must trust another completely, place your life and your purpose in their hands, and accept that you cannot control everything. For a man who has built his entire existence on self-reliance and dominance, this will be your greatest challenge." Razhan wants to dismiss her words as mystical nonsense, but he has seen too much in his 4 decades of life to deny the power of the totems, the truth that sometimes flows through their chosen vessels. He has witnessed prophecies fulfilled, visions made manifest. If the Stellar Temple has sent this woman to him, they believe the threat is real. What is coming? He asks bluntly. What am I supposed to face? Lyra rises from her chair, moving to the entrance of the pavilion where she can see the garrison spread below, thousands of warriors training, preparing, living their lives in the shadow of war. There is an ancient evil stirring in the deep places of the world, beneath the desert sands, in ruins older than any living memory. It is called the Devourer, a creature of pure hunger that consumes not just flesh, but spirit, identity, memory. It has been imprisoned for 1,000 years, but the seals that bind it are weakening. In 2 weeks it will break free, and when it does it will come here first, drawn by the concentration of life force, of warriors whose spirits burn bright. This garrison will be its first meal. Razhan stands, his tactical mind already working. Then we fortify. We prepare every defense. We call for reinforcements from the other garrisons. We evacuate civilians from surrounding settlements. We face this creature with overwhelming force. Lyra turns back to him, and there is sadness in her violet eyes. We have seen that timeline. You do all those things. You fight brilliantly, and you lose. The Devourer is not a creature that can be defeated by conventional warfare. It is beyond physical harm, beyond numbers, beyond strategy. The only way to stop it is through a ritual, an ancient binding that requires the combined power of 3 marked individuals working in perfect harmony. You are one, I am another, and the third is coming. Before Razhan can respond, a commotion erupts outside the pavilion. Shouts, the sound of running feet, the clash of metal. Razhan's hand moves instinctively to the sword leaning against his table, a blade forged from meteoric iron and blessed by the Sun Kings themselves. He strides out of the pavilion, with Lyra following close behind. In the training yard below, a scene of chaos unfolds. A figure is fighting through his guards, not with weapons, but with bare hands moving faster than the eye can follow. The guards are not injured, merely disarmed and pushed aside with such speed and precision that they barely understand what is happening. Razhan watches with growing amazement as the intruder, cloaked in desert travel garments, incapacitates 6 trained warriors in the span of heartbeats. Then the figure stops in the center of the yard, looks directly up at Razhan on his command pavilion, and pulls back the hood. A woman. She appears to be in her early 30s, with sun-darkened skin and dark brown eyes that flash with determination and exhaustion. Her hair is short and practical, her build lean and muscular. And on her left shoulder, visible as her cloak falls away, is a mark. A cheetah in mid-sprint, golden lines that shimmer with restless energy. The winged cheetah. A healer and guardian, bearer of supernatural speed and the gift of swift salvation. The woman drops to one knee, not in submission but in formal greeting, her breathing heavy from exertion. General Razhan, I am Kira, marked by the winged cheetah. I have run for 3 days without stopping to bring you a message. The high mystic of the stellar temple said you would need me, that we 3 must stand together against what is coming. Razhan looks from Kira to Lyra, understanding dawning. The third. Lyra nods. The third. The convergence is complete. Razhan descends from his pavilion, walking through his gathered warriors, who part respectfully. He approaches Kira, studying her with the assessing gaze of a commander evaluating a new soldier. You ran for 3 days without stopping? That should be impossible. Kira manages a tired smile. The winged cheetah grants many gifts, General, but even I have limits. I need water and rest before I can be of use to anyone. Razhan makes a decision. He gestures to his officers. See that she is given quarters, food, and water. Post guards for her safety, not her restraint. She is a guest. Then he looks at both women. We will meet at sunset in my pavilion. You will explain everything, this ritual, this devourer, what is required of us. And then I will decide our course of action. The day passes in a blur of activity. Razhan meets with his commanders, begins preparations for potential attack, orders scouts to investigate the ancient ruins that dot the desert to the south, where the Devourer is supposedly imprisoned. He sends fast riders to the nearest Sun King's court with reports of the threat, requesting support, though he knows it may not arrive in time. He does all of this with his usual efficiency and focus, but beneath the surface, His mind churns with unfamiliar uncertainty. Trust another completely. Place your life in their hands. These concepts are foreign to him, antithetical to everything he has learned. He has survived 42 years by trusting only himself, by maintaining absolute control, by never showing weakness. How can he change now? Why should he? As the sun begins its descent toward the horizon, painting the desert in shades of orange and gold, Razhan returns to his pavilion. Lyra is already there, seated in meditation, her eyes closed, her breathing slow and deep. Kira arrives moments later, looking refreshed, her movements regaining their characteristic fluidity. They arrange themselves around the table, and Razhan pours water for each of them, a small gesture of hospitality that costs him nothing. Now he begins, his voice all business. Tell me everything. Leave nothing out. I need to understand what we are facing. Lyra opens her eyes, the violet depths seeming to glow faintly in the dimming light. The Devourer is not a natural creature. It was created in the age before the Sun Kings, during a time of great darkness, when shadow ruled more of the world than light. A cult of corrupted mystics sought to create the ultimate weapon, a being that could consume entire armies, entire cities, growing stronger with each life it took. They succeeded beyond their darkest dreams. The Devourer was unleashed, and for 10 years it ravaged the ancient kingdoms. Millions died. Entire bloodlines were erased from existence. It could not be killed, for it was not truly alive. It was hunger given form, emptiness shaped into something that moves and thinks, and desires only to consume. Finally, the first marked ones, the original bearers of the totem powers, came together. 5 of them, representing each of the great totems. They performed a ritual of binding that took 7 days and nights, and at the end, 3 of them died from the exertion. But the Devourer was imprisoned deep beneath the desert in a pocket dimension, sealed by their combined power. Kira continues the tale, her voice rough but steady. Those seals were meant to last forever, but nothing truly lasts forever. Over the centuries they have degraded. Small tremors in the spiritual fabric, tiny cracks in the prison. Each generation of marked ones has had to renew the seals, strengthen them. But 50 years ago, during a time of war and chaos, the renewal was not performed. The marked ones of that generation were scattered, fighting other threats, and the ritual was postponed, then postponed again, until it was forgotten entirely. Now the seals are failing. The stellar temple's mystics can feel it, can see the cracks spreading in the cosmic pattern. In 2 weeks, maybe less, the Devourer will break free. And when it does, it will be as if those 1,000 years of imprisonment never happened. It will be hungry, ravenous beyond imagining, and it will feed. Razhan processes this information with the calm of a seasoned commander, though the implications are staggering. What is required to imprison it again? Can we perform this ritual? Lyra leans forward, her expression grave. The ritual requires 3 marked individuals, each representing a different aspect of the totem's power. One who embodies strength and leadership, the solar lion, that is you, General. One who embodies wisdom and cosmic connection, the stellar leopard, that is me. And one who embodies swift action and healing, the wind cheetah, that is Kira. Together we must journey to the site of the original prison, the ruins of Karseth in the deep wastes, 3 days' ride south of here, There we must perform the ritual of renewal, pouring our combined power into the seals, reinforcing the prison before the Devourer can escape. Razhan immediately sees the tactical problem. 3 days' ride means 6 days minimum, there and back. You said we have 2 weeks before it breaks free. That leaves little margin for error. What if we are delayed? What if we fail? Then the Devourer will emerge, and nothing in this world will stop it from consuming everything, Kira says quietly. Not your garrison, not your armies, not all the warriors of all the kingdoms combined. This is not a creature you fight with swords and strategy, General. This is a creature you contain, or you die, and everyone you have ever known dies with you. The weight of her words settles over the pavilion like a shroud. Razhan stands, moving to look out at his garrison, at the thousands of lives depending on his leadership. He has faced impossible odds before, has turned certain defeat into miraculous victory through will and cunning. But this is different. This requires something he has never been good at: cooperation, interdependence, trust. He turns back to the women. This ritual, what does it entail? What risks? Lyra stands as well, approaching to stand beside him. The ritual requires us to link our spirits, to become as one being with 3 parts. Each of us must open ourselves completely to the others, lowering every defense, every barrier. We will share thoughts, memories, emotions, fears, everything. For the duration of the ritual, there will be no secrets, no privacy, no individual identity. We will be vulnerable in a way that cannot be described to those who have never experienced it. Razhan feels that cold touch again, the whisper of fear. You are asking me to let you into my mind, to let you see everything I am. Every weakness, every doubt, every secret I have kept buried. Lyra meets his golden eyes with her violet ones, unflinching. Yes, and you will see everything we are as well. It is complete vulnerability, complete trust, or it does not work. That is why the stars show you dying in most timelines, General, because you cannot bring yourself to do this. You fight alone, you die alone, and the Devourer is free to destroy everything you have spent your life protecting. Razhan wants to argue, to find another way, but he knows in his bones that she is speaking truth. He can feel the rightness of it, the terrible logic. This is the price of saving his world. He must surrender the one thing he has never surrendered: control. He looks at Kira, who has been quiet, watching him with those sharp brown eyes. What about you? Are you prepared to do this? To share everything? Kira nods slowly. I am a healer, General. I am trained to give of myself, to pour my energy into others. This frightens me, yes. The thought of being that open, that exposed, it terrifies me. But I will do it. Because the alternative is watching everyone I have ever healed die screaming as the Devourer takes them. I will not let that happen. Her courage, spoken so simply, shames him slightly. She is afraid. She admits it freely, and yet she will act anyway. Can he do less? He is General Razhan, the Lionblood, who has never retreated, never surrendered, never shown weakness. Can he be less brave than this woman who ran for 3 days to stand beside him? We leave at dawn, he says, his voice hard and decisive. I will select a small escort, my best riders, to accompany us to the ruins. We will move fast and light. Lyra shakes her head. No escort. The ritual site can only be accessed by those marked by the totems. If you bring others, they will not be able to enter, and they will be exposed and vulnerable outside while we work within. We three go alone. Razhan dislikes this intensely, every instinct as a military commander, rebelling against such a small, unsupported force. But again, he recognizes the truth in her words. This is not a military operation. This is something else entirely. Fine, we three alone. Prepare whatever you need. At first light, we ride. The women bow and take their leave. Razhan remains in his pavilion as night falls fully, staring at maps that suddenly seem useless, thinking about battles that cannot be won with steel and tactics. He does not sleep that night. Instead, he walks through his garrison, moving among his soldiers, speaking with sentries, checking defenses, doing all the familiar things that ground him in certainty. These men and women trust him with their lives. They follow his orders without question because he has never failed them, never led them into disaster. How can he protect them now when the threat is so far beyond anything he has trained for? As the first gray light of pre-dawn touches the eastern horizon, Razhan returns to his pavilion one last time. He straps on his armor, not the ceremonial gilded plate he wears for state occasions, but the practical, worn leather and chainmail of a working soldier. He takes his sword, the meteoric blade, and secures it at his hip. He takes nothing else except water and rations for 3 days. At the stables, Lyra and Kira wait beside 3 horses already saddled and prepared. Lyra has changed into more practical traveling clothes, though she still wears her constellation-marked robes beneath. Kira is dressed in light leather armor, twin daggers at her belt, her mark visible on her bare shoulder. They mount without ceremony and ride out through the garrison gates as the sun breaks over the horizon, 3 figures against the vastness of the desert. The journey south is grueling. They ride through heat that would kill an ordinary person within hours, but each of them is sustained by their totem marks, by the power that flows through their bodies. They speak little during the first day, each absorbed in their own thoughts. Razhan watches the horizon constantly, his military training unable to rest, always searching for threats, always calculating. Kira rides with easy grace, her body moving with the horse, as if they are one creature. Lyra seems distant, her eyes often unfocused, as if she sees things happening in other places, other times. By evening of the first day, they make camp in the lee of a large rock formation that provides some shelter from the wind. They build a small fire from dried desert scrub, eat in silence. Then Kira speaks. "General, may I ask you something?" Razhan looks at her across the flames. "Ask, why do you never kneel?" "I have heard the stories. They say you have never bowed to king or god, never shown submission to any power. Is it pride? Or something else?" Razhan is quiet for a long moment, surprised by the directness of the question, but also by his own willingness to answer. "When I was a boy," he begins, his voice low, "I lived in a small village on the edge of the waste. My father was a craftsman, a maker of tools and implements. We were not wealthy, but we were not poor. We had enough. One day, raiders came from the deep desert. They burned our village, took what they wanted, killed those who resisted. My father did not resist. He knelt. He begged for mercy. He offered them everything we had. And they killed him anyway. Cut his throat while he was on his knees, pleading. I was 10 years old. I watched it happen. And in that moment I swore I would never be like him. I would never kneel. I would never beg. I would be strong enough that no one could make me. The fire crackles, sending sparks into the night sky. Kira's expression is soft with understanding. And so you became the strongest. You became the man no one can break. Razhan nods. I trained. I fought. I earned my place in the military through skill and determination. When the Solar Lion marked me at age 22, I took it as confirmation that I was right. Strength is everything. Control is everything. If you show weakness, you die. It is that simple. Lyra speaks from the shadows, her voice thoughtful. But it is not that simple, is it? Strength alone did not save your village. Control did not protect your father. There are forces in this world that cannot be dominated by will alone. The Devourer is one such force. Razhan feels anger flare in his chest. So what would you have me do? Become weak. Show my throat to every enemy? Become like my father, kneeling and begging? No. Lyra moves into the firelight, her violet eyes luminous. There is a difference between being weak and being open, between submission and trust. What we ask of you is not to kneel in defeat, but to stand with others as an equal, to acknowledge that even the strongest cannot face everything alone. That is not weakness, General. That is wisdom. Razhan wants to argue, but exhaustion and the long day of riding have worn down his defenses. He simply grunts and turns away, wrapping himself in his bedroll, ending the conversation. But Lyra's words echo in his mind as he lies beneath the stars, kept awake by thoughts he cannot silence. The second day of travel is harder. The terrain grows rougher, the heat more intense. They enter regions where few people ever venture, where the desert shows its true face, merciless and indifferent. Rock formations tower around them like the ruins of giant temples. Dunes rise like mountains, their slopes steep and treacherous. The horses struggle, and they have to dismount and lead them through the worst passages. By late afternoon, they reach a plateau overlooking a vast depression in the earth, a basin surrounded by shattered pillars of black stone. Even from this distance, Razhan can feel something wrong about the place, a coldness that has nothing to do with temperature, a sense of wrongness that makes his mark pulse with warning heat. The ruins of Karsith, Lyra says quietly. The prison of the Devourer. They descend into the basin as the sun begins to set, and with each step the sense of wrongness intensifies. The air here is different, heavy and thick, difficult to breathe. The black pillars are covered in ancient carvings, symbols that hurt to look at directly, as if they were never meant for human eyes. In the center of the ruins is a circular platform of the same black stone, and at its center, a perfect circle that seems to contain absolute darkness, a void that swallows light itself. That is the seal, Kira whispers, her voice tight with fear. I can feel it. It is cracking. Razhan can feel it, too, a sensation like spider web fractures running through reality itself. How long? He asks Lyra. Hours. Perhaps less. We must begin immediately. They dismount and approach the platform. As they step onto the black stone, the temperature drops precipitously, their breath misting in the air, despite the desert heat just yards away. They arrange themselves around the dark circle in a triangle formation, each positioned at equal distance. Lyra begins to speak, her voice taking on a rhythmic, chanting quality. words in a language Razhan does not know, but somehow understands in his bones, ancient words, words of binding and sealing. Kira joins in, her voice harmonizing with Lyra's, and then both women look at Razhan expectantly. He hesitates, the chant unfamiliar, but then his mark flares hot on his chest, and the words come to him unbidden, flowing from his mouth, as if he has always known them. As they chant together, something begins to happen. The air shimmers. The darkness at the center of the circle rise like a living thing, and Razhan feels a pulling sensation, as if his spirit is being drawn out of his body, reaching toward the others. Lyra's voice cuts through the chant. Now, General, open yourself. Let us in. Razhan tries. He truly tries. But every instinct screams at him to maintain his walls, to keep his defenses high, to protect the core of who he is. He can feel Lyra and Kira opening, their spirits extending toward his, but he cannot reciprocate. His mark burns hotter, almost painful, urging him forward, but still he cannot do it. The ritual begins to falter. The chanting grows discordant, and from the dark circle a sound emerges. Laughter, cold, cruel, ancient laughter. A voice like grinding stone speaks, its words penetrating directly into their minds. I taste your fear, little lights. I taste your doubt. You cannot bind me. You cannot stop what is coming. I am hunger eternal. I am the end of all things, and I am almost free. The seal cracks visibly, light breaking through darkness, wrong light, the color of sickness and decay. They are running out of time. Lyra's voice is urgent, desperate. Razhan, please, you must trust us. You must let go. Razhan's hands clench into fists, his whole body rigid with resistance. He cannot do this. He has spent his entire life building these walls, and now they are asking him to tear them down in moments. It is impossible. It goes against everything he is. And then Kira does something unexpected. She breaks the formation, crosses to where Razhan stands frozen, and takes his face in her hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. Listen to me, she says, her voice cutting through his panic. I see you, Razhan. I see the boy who watched his father die. I see the soldier who climbed from nothing to become legendary. I see the general who carries the weight of thousands on his shoulders. I see the man who believes he must be strong enough for everyone, because no one was strong enough for him. And I am telling you now, you do not have to carry this alone. Let us help you. Let us be strong with you, not for you. Trust us. Razhan looks into her brown eyes, and something in him cracks. Not his strength, not his power, but the fear beneath it all. The fear that if he shows weakness, if he lets anyone truly see him, they will find him lacking. They will turn away. He will be alone again, watching helplessly as everything burns. But Kira does not turn away. Neither does Lyra, standing steady despite the horror breaking free beneath them. They are here. They are willing to stand with him in the face of oblivion itself. And slowly, painfully, Razhan lets his walls crumble. The effect is immediate and overwhelming. His spirit rushes outward, connecting with theirs, and suddenly he is not alone in his own head. He feels Lyra's presence, cool and vast like the night sky, her mind filled with patterns and possibilities, her memories of lives lived in study and contemplation, her own fears of inadequacy, of misreading the stars, of leading them wrong. He feels Kira's presence warm and quick like wind across the dunes, her mind filled with every person she has ever healed. Every life she has saved, her memories of running until her legs gave out, of pushing beyond human limits because someone somewhere needed her, her fear that one day she will not be fast enough, that she will arrive too late. And they feel him. They see his memories, his father's death, his years of brutal training, every battle fought, every command given, every decision that led to soldiers living or dying. They see his loneliness, the isolation of command, the burden of being the one everyone looks to for answers. They see his fear that he is not strong enough, that he will fail, that despite everything he has done, he will end up on his knees like his father, helpless and broken. And in seeing each other so completely, they understand. They are not so different after all. Each of them carries burdens. Each of them fights their own wars against doubt and fear. Each of them has built walls to protect themselves. But in this moment, the walls are gone, and they are three becoming one, their spirits intertwining, their power flowing together like three streams merging into a single river. The chant resumes, but now it is perfect. Three voices as one voice, three wills as one will. Their marks blaze with light. Golden lion, silver leopard, amber cheetah, all burning so bright that the darkness retreats before them. They pour their combined power into the seal, reweaving the ancient binding, reinforcing it with fresh strength. The Devourer screams, a sound of pure rage and hunger, and it pushes back, its power immense and terrible. The platform shakes. Cracks spread through the black stone. For a moment, Razhan feels the ritual slipping, their combined strength not enough against the sheer malevolent force of the ancient evil. And then he understands what must be done. He draws on his mark more deeply than he ever has, pulling power from the very core of his being, power that the solar lion grants only to those willing to sacrifice. He pours it into the ritual, into his connection with Lyra and Kira, and he feels them do the same, all three of them giving everything, holding nothing back. The light from their marks becomes blinding. The Devourer's scream rises to a pitch that shatters stone, and then suddenly silence. The dark circle seals completely, the cracks vanishing, the wrongness receding. The ritual is complete. The Devourer is imprisoned once more, bound by chains forged from their combined spirits, sealed for another 1,000 years. Razhan collapses to his knees on the black stone, utterly spent, every ounce of strength drained from him. Lyra and Kira fall as well, the three of them gasping for breath, their marks dim and quiet now. For a long moment, none of them can speak. They simply kneel there on the platform, alive, victorious, and irrevocably changed. Finally, Kira manages a weak laugh. "We did it. We actually did it." Lyra nods, her silver hair disheveled, her violet eyes weary but satisfied. "The seal will hold. The stars show a new pattern now, a better pattern." Razhan slowly becomes aware that he is on his knees. He, who swore he would never kneel again, is on his knees. But it does not feel like defeat. It does not feel like weakness. It feels like humility, like respect for what they have accomplished together, like acknowledgement that some victories require surrender of ego, of pride, of the need for control. He looks at Kira and Lyra and finds them both watching him. There is no judgment in their eyes, no mockery, only understanding, only companionship. He realizes that they have seen everything he is, every flaw and fear, and they have not turned away. They have stood with him anyway. The revelation is staggering. Slowly, with great effort, they rise. They help each other off the platform, away from the sealed prison, back to where their horses wait nervously at the edge of the ruins. The journey back to Ashmore takes 4 days instead of 3, all of them weakened by the ritual, needing extra rest, moving slowly. But they do not mind. They have time now. The threat is contained. As they ride, they talk, really talk, in a way Razhan has never talked to anyone. The ritual has left their minds connected in subtle ways, able to sense each other's emotions, to communicate without words. It is strange, but not unwelcome. He learns about Lyra's childhood in the stellar temple, raised among books and star charts, learning to see the cosmic patterns before she could read. He learns about Kira's training as a healer, the years spent grinding herbs and treating minor ailments before the wind cheetah marked her and changed her life forever. And he tells him things he has never told anyone, his dreams, his regrets, the weight of command, the loneliness of being the one everyone relies upon. On the 3rd night of their return journey, as they sit around another campfire beneath a sky so full of stars it seems impossible, Kira speaks. "You know, General, you knelt back there, on the platform, after the ritual." Reason is quiet for a moment, then nods. "I did. And nothing. Just noting that it happened." The legendary Razhan, who never kneels, knelt. There is gentle teasing in her voice, but also something deeper. Respect, understanding. Razhan finds himself smiling, a rare expression. "I knelt for you, for both of you. Not in submission, but in recognition that we did something I could never have done alone." That feels different somehow. Lyra's voice is soft in the darkness. "It is different. You knelt not as a defeated man, but as an equal among equals. That is the kind of kneeling that costs nothing and gains everything." Razhan considers this, then speaks the truth that has been forming in his mind over these days of recovery and revelation. "I was wrong. About strength, about control, about doing everything alone. My father was not weak for kneeling. He was a craftsman, not a warrior. He did the best he could with what he knew. And maybe if I had been less rigid, less convinced of my own self-sufficiency, I could have seen that sooner." Kira reaches across the fire and squeezes his hand briefly. "It takes great strength to admit you were wrong, General. That is its own kind of courage." They reach Ashmore on the afternoon of the 4th day. The garrison erupts in relief and celebration at Razhan's return. His officers swarm him with reports and questions, but he waves them off, instructing that quarters be prepared for Lyra and Kira, that they be treated as honored guests and allies. Later, after he has bathed and changed and resumed his duties as commander, he summons them both to his pavilion one final time. "You are leaving," he states, rather than asks. Lyra nods. "I must return to the Stellar Temple. They will want a full report, and there are other patterns in the stars that require attention, other potential threats to track." Kira shifts her weight, looking uncomfortable. "And I have been away from my healing work too long. There are people who need me. I must return to the southern villages." Razhan expected this, but he still feels a pang of something like loss. The connection formed during the ritual has faded to a whisper, but it is still there, a thread linking the 3 of them across any distance. Will we see each other again? Lyra smiles, her violet eyes knowing. The stars suggest our paths will cross again, though when and under what circumstances remains unclear. We are bound now, General. What we shared, what we accomplished, that does not simply disappear. We will always be connected. Kira nods agreement. And you know where to find me if you need me. 3 days run. No matter where I am, I will come. Razhan stands, and in a gesture that surprises even himself, he removes a leather cord from around his neck. Hanging from it is a small medallion, bronze and worn, stamped with the garrison's seal. He hands it to Kira. This was given to me when I was promoted to general. It represents everything I have built here. I want you to have it, not as payment or obligation, but as a reminder. You are always welcome in Ashmore, both of you. Kira takes the medallion, clearly moved. She fastens it around her own neck. I will treasure this, General. Thank you. Lyra produces a small crystal from her robes, no larger than a fingertip, but it contains what looks like a captured star, a point of light that twinkles in its depths. Hold this up to the night sky when you need guidance, she says, offering it to Razhan. It will show you the patterns, help you see what is coming. Not the future, precisely, but possibilities. Razhan accepts the crystal, feeling its slight warmth against his palm. I do not have anything to give you, he admits. Lyra laughs softly. You have already given me what I needed, General. You proved that the stars can be wrong, or at least incomplete. They showed you dying in almost every timeline, but you survived. You changed fate itself by choosing trust over pride. That is a gift beyond measure. They depart the next morning, riding out through the garrison gates as the sun rises, just as they arrived. Razhan watches them go from his command pavilion, a strange mixture of emotions in his chest. He has lost something in these past days, some certainty, some rigidity. But he has gained something too, perspective, companionship, the knowledge that there are different kinds of strength, and that sometimes the strongest thing a person can do is admit they need help. Life at the garrison returns to normal, or as normal as military life ever is. Razhan continues to command with his usual competence and authority. But his officers notice subtle changes. He consults them more, listens to their input, delegates more effectively. He shows patience with younger soldiers making mistakes, offering guidance rather than harsh criticism. He takes time to walk among his troops, to know them as individuals rather than just units on a map. The rigid, unapproachable general becomes something more human, more accessible, and his soldiers love him all the more for it. Word spreads throughout the territories of the 3 marked ones who sealed the Devourer, saving countless lives. The story grows in the telling, becoming legend, though the truth is impressive enough without embellishment. Razhan finds himself the subject of songs and tales, not just as the unconquerable general, but as the man who knelt for his companions, who trusted when trust was hardest, who proved that even the strongest need others. Months pass, a year. Razhan continues his work, leading campaigns against bandits and shadow creatures, maintaining order and security across the southern territories. But now he does so with allies he trusts, with the knowledge that he does not have to face everything alone. The thread connecting him to Lyra and Kira remains, faint but present, and occasionally he feels pulses along it, brief communications, assurances that they are well, that they remember, that the bond formed in the ruins endures. 2 years after the sealing of the Devourer, a messenger arrives from the stellar temple. The High Mystic requests Razhan's presence at a gathering of all marked individuals across the territories. A convocation, something that has not happened in centuries, called to address growing threats and to coordinate efforts. Razhan makes arrangements, leaves his second-in-command in charge of the garrison, and rides north to the temple. When he arrives, he finds dozens of marked ones gathered, representing all 5 totems. And there, among the crowd, he sees familiar faces. Lyra, her silver hair longer now, her presence still that of cosmic serenity. And Kira, looking older but no less vital, her perpetual motion barely contained, even in stillness. Their eyes meet across the temple courtyard, and smiles break across all 3 faces simultaneously. They converge, embracing without hesitation, the thread between them flaring bright with recognition and joy. "You came," Kira says, grinning. "Of course I came," Razhan replies. "When have I ever ignored a summons from the stars?" Lyra laughs. "Never, now. But there was a time when you might have." "You have changed, General." "We all have," Razhan acknowledges. "That is not a weakness. That is growth." They spend the following days in meetings and discussions, planning coordinated responses to threats, sharing knowledge and resources, building networks of cooperation among the marked ones. Razhan finds himself at the center of many strategic discussions, his military expertise valued and sought after. But he also listens, learns from others, accepts that his way is not always the best way. The convocation ends with a ceremony, a renewal of the ancient covenant between marked ones and totems. Each individual steps forward to reaffirm their commitment to protecting the world, to standing against darkness, to using their gifts in service of life and light. When it is Razhan's turn, he speaks words that come from his heart rather than duty. "I am General Razhan, marked by the Solar Lion. I have spent my life learning to be strong, to stand alone, to never yield. But I have learned something more important. True strength is not isolation. True strength is connection, is trust, is the willingness to stand with others as equals. I pledge my power, my skill, and my loyalty, not just to the totem who marked me, but to all those who stand beside me in this fight. We are stronger together than any of us could ever be alone." The words echo through the temple, and Razhan feels the weight of his mark shift slightly, as if the Solar Lion itself is acknowledging this new understanding, this evolution of what it means to be a warrior, a leader, a guardian. After the ceremony, as marked ones begin to depart back to their various duties and homes, Razhan walks with Lyra and Kira through the temple gardens, a space of green growing things that seem impossible in the desert, sustained by ancient magic and careful tending. "Will you return to the garrison?" Kira asks. "Yes," Razhan confirms. "That is where I am needed, where I can do the most good. But I am open to being called elsewhere if the need arises." "What about you both?" Lyra gazes at the sky, though it is still daylight and no stars are visible. "I will continue my studies, my watching. The patterns are always shifting, and someone must track them." Kira stretches, her body already restless. "And I will keep running, keep healing. There is always someone who needs help, always another emergency. That is my path." They walk in companionable silence for a while, then Razhan speaks again. "Thank you for finding me for forcing me to face what I could not face alone, for saving me from myself as much as from the Devourer." Kira bumps his shoulder gently with her own. "That is what companions do, General. We save each other." Lyra nods. "And we will continue to do so for as long as the totems will it, and perhaps beyond. We are bound by more than magic now. We are bound by choice, by respect, by the knowledge of what we can accomplish together." They reach the edge of the garden, where the desert begins again, endless dunes stretching to the horizon. Razhan looks out at that vastness and feels not loneliness but connection to these two women, to all the marked ones, to the world itself. He has knelt once in the ruins in the moment of greatest need, and he would do it again if required, because he understands now that kneeling in trust, in partnership, in acknowledgement of shared purpose, is not weakness. It is perhaps the greatest strength of all. The three of them stand together, watching the sunset paint the desert in colors of fire and gold. And Razhan knows that whatever comes next, whatever threats emerge from the deep places or the dark corners of the world, he will not face them alone. He has allies. He has friends. He has learned to trust. And that makes all the difference. The story of the Lionblood general who knelt only once is told across the territories for generations to come. It is told as a lesson about strength and humility, about pride and wisdom, about the power of trust. But for Razhan himself, it is simply the story of how he learned to be more than he was, how he grew beyond the limitations he had set for himself, how he discovered that the walls he had built for protection had also been a prison, and in tearing them down, in opening himself to others, he had found not weakness but liberation, not defeat but victory of a kind he had never imagined. Years pass, decades. Razhan grows older, his hair fully silver now, his body bearing the accumulated scars and aches of a lifetime of warfare. But he remains sharp, capable, respected not just for his legendary past, but for his wisdom in the present. The garrison at Ashmore thrives under his command, becoming a model for other military installations, known not just for its martial prowess, but for its culture of mutual support and cooperation. Young officers trained there carry those values to other posts, spreading a new way of thinking about strength and leadership. And throughout all those years, the thread connecting Razhan to Lyra and Kira never breaks. They meet periodically, sometimes for serious reasons, threats that require their combined efforts, other times simply to check on each other, to share stories, to maintain the bond. They age together, their marks perhaps dimming slightly with time, but never fading, symbols of their connection to powers greater than themselves and to each other. On Razhan's 60th birthday, a small package arrives at the garrison, delivered by a messenger who vanishes before Razhan can question them. Inside is a book, bound in leather, filled with pages in Lyra's precise handwriting and Kira's more hurried script. It is a chronicle of their shared adventures, their individual journeys, their thoughts and reflections on what it means to be marked, to be chosen, to be guardians. The final page contains a message written in both hands, their words intertwining. To the general who learned to kneel. To the warrior who discovered wisdom. To our friend, our brother, our companion. May you always know that you are not alone. With love and respect, Lyra and Kira. Razhan reads the book cover to cover that night, his old eyes misting more than once, his chest tight with emotions he has learned to accept rather than suppress. When he finishes, he carefully places the book on a shelf in his private quarters, next to the crystal Lyra gave him and the handful of other treasures he has accumulated over a lifetime. And then he steps out onto his balcony, looking up at the stars, feeling the thread that connects him to his distant friends, and he speaks quietly to the night. Thank you for everything, for changing me, for saving me, for teaching me that strength comes in many forms, and that the strongest among us are those who know when to stand alone and when to stand together. The stars offer no answer, but he does not need one. He knows, deep in the core of his being, that somewhere Lyra is watching those same stars, interpreting their patterns, keeping vigil over the territories. And somewhere Kira is running through the night, rushing to someone's aid, her mark glowing with the wind cheetah's power. And here he stands, the Lionblood general, marked by the solar lion, older now but wiser, his legend secure but his pride tempered by humility. He has knelt once, and in that single moment of surrender, he found everything he had been seeking his entire life: purpose, connection, peace. Desert wind blows across the garrison, carrying with it the distant roar of some great cat. Whether real or imagined, he cannot say. It does not matter. He smiles and returns inside, ready for whatever tomorrow brings, secure in the knowledge that he does not face it alone. This is his truth. This is his story. This is the legacy of the general who knelt once, and in kneeling rose higher than he ever had standing. And so our tale concludes, though the lives we have glimpsed continue beyond these words, beyond this moment. General Razhan's story is one of transformation, of a man so convinced of his own self-reliance that he nearly destroyed himself maintaining it, who learned at the edge of oblivion that true strength is not solitary but shared, not isolation but connection, not the ability to stand alone, but the wisdom to know when standing together is necessary. His single moment of kneeling, witnessed only by two companions and the ancient evil they fought, became the pivot point of his existence, the moment when everything changed. And perhaps that is the deepest truth, that we all have such moments, such choices where we can cling to who we have always been or dare to become something more. Razhan chose growth. He chose trust. He chose to tear down the walls he had spent a lifetime building, and in doing so he discovered not emptiness but fullness, not weakness but a strength he had never imagined. May we all be so brave when our moment comes. If this story resonated with you, if you found yourself moved by Razhan's journey from isolation to connection, if you felt the power of trust forged in the crucible of impossible odds, then share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you find hardest to surrender? What walls do you maintain, and why? Which character in this tale spoke to you most deeply? Your reflections and insights enrich our community and shape the stories yet to be told. And if you have not yet joined the Solaris Legends family, now is the time. Subscribe to this channel and activate notifications so you never miss an adventure. Together we will continue exploring this vast desert realm, uncovering its secrets, witnessing the rise of heroes and the fall of darkness, discovering what it truly means to be chosen by destiny and to walk the path of the marked. Thank you for allowing us to share General Razhan's story with you, for traveling with us to the ruins of Karsith, for witnessing the sealing of the Devourer and the transformation of a legend. Until our next tale, may you have the courage to trust, the wisdom to know when to stand firm and when to yield, the strength to tear down your own walls when they become prisons. This is Solaris Legends, where every hero begins as someone ordinary, where every transformation starts with a choice, where every ending is also a beginning. We will meet you in the next story. Until then, stay strong, stay open, stay ready for the moments that will define you.